All right. What is up, everybody? We are going live for our monthly live stream here at Wall Street Mastermind. So let's give everyone a couple minutes to just sign on. And in the meantime, I am also going to make sure that everything is working correctly. For those of you that are already on here, so we should be broadcasting live on Facebook and also on YouTube and also on our LinkedIn or my LinkedIn. Yeah, so inside the Facebook group, and also we're on Instagram. All right, so if you guys can hear me, do me a favor and drop hashtag live in the comments, just so I know you guys can hear me. Otherwise, all right, so I don't want to end up talking to myself for the next hour. But otherwise, if you guys can hear me, then we'll go ahead and get started here. All right. So it looks like we're also go here on LinkedIn and on YouTube, and we're also live on Facebook. Cool. So guys, what I want to talk about today is obviously, as usual, the investment banking recruiting process. Primarily, I think for a lot of you right now, if you're still recruiting, it's a lot of the sophomores that are recruiting for summer 2023. And, but also if you're not a sophomore and maybe you're recruiting for full-time, you're a junior, looking for a last minute junior summer internship because the semester is about to be over. Maybe you're a freshman and you're just looking to get a head start, whatever it may be, anything's fair game. And feel free to just drop your questions down below in the comment section. Like if you're on Instagram or YouTube or LinkedIn, like there should be a place for you to comment. And I will try to, as usual, in the next hour or so, get through as many of these questions as I can. Okay. Before we start, while I'm waiting for some of these questions to come in, Adam says, nice fade, dog. Thanks, man. But while we're waiting for these comments to come in, just to give everyone kind of an update on where the summer 2023 recruiting process is. So what we're seeing with a lot of our students is that most of the elite boutiques, if not all of them, have definitely started giving out offers, but a lot of them have also are pretty much close to finished with giving out offers. So elite boutiques would be firms like Evercore, Centerview, PJT, Moelis. Sorry, my computer is going crazy here. Okay, so sorry about that, but let me repeat that. So when I say elite boutiques, I'm referring to firms like Evercore, Centerview, Moelis, Lazard, PJT, Perella Weinberg. I'm probably missing a couple, Greenhill, Rothschild. So there are like, I think 9 or 10 of these, right? So the vast majority of them are, I think, close to being done. Maybe with the exception of Centerview. Centerview, they have given out some offers, especially for diversity candidates, but they typically tend to recruit a little bit later in the process. And so if you are just starting to recruit now, or you haven't gotten an interview yet, I think you can probably virtually write off the elite boutique category. Okay. As for bulge bracket banks, some bulge bracket banks have definitely started giving out offers as well. We've got, Goldman, I know, has started doing some super days, at least for some of the groups. Like I had a couple clients that have already done super days for the TMT group in San Francisco, but also the New York one is coming up as well later this week. Raj says Guggenheim. I forgot about Guggenheim. Sorry, Raj. How could I forget about Guggenheim? That's Raj's firm. So, Guggenheim is also a elite boutique. But then coming back to the bulge bracket banks, so Goldman has started interviewing, but I haven't, and I think they just started giving out like some initial offers. And so that will continue. Morgan Stanley, I've had a couple clients get offers from there. JPMorgan, I had a client get an offer from there. Who else? Bank of America. I think I've only seen, actually, no, I had clients get offers from Bank of America as well. Citi, Credit Suisse, although I think that was for diversity. And I think Credit Suisse will recruit a little bit longer than most other people. Haven't seen offers from UBS or DB yet. And am I missing anyone else on the bulge bracket side? So anyway, like on the bulge bracket bank side, I think that same thing, right? Like most of these firms, definitely they've all started interviewing. Some have started giving out at least like the first batch of offers, but I think in general, and this is usually the case every single year, they will continue to recruit a bit longer than the elite boutiques. Okay, so I expect most of the bulge bracket banks though to finish giving out their offers possibly within the next month, but if not, then definitely within the next 2 months, based on the pace that we're seeing that things are moving at. Okay, so that kind of leaves the middle market banks. And so for the middle market banks, that's kind of like that next tier down, right? I would say like bulge bracket and boutique banks are like the top 20 banks. And then middle market banks, I would say are like probably the next 30 or so. So that makes up like the top 50, right? And so for middle market banks, there's obviously a lot more of them, but also I think they tend to recruit a little bit later. Sure, some firms have been recruiting for a while at the middle market level, but I haven't seen too many offers go out from middle market banks. Okay, so I have clients there that got offers from Piper, RBC, and then there might be a few other ones. Okay, so the bottom line is this, right? If you're a sophomore and you're recruiting for someone in 2023, a lot of questions that I've been getting in recent weeks is like, oh, is it too late? Is it too late, Sam? Now, there's no like one size fits all answer. It depends on like how far along you are in your specific process, right? What do I mean by that? Like whether it's too late, for example, one of the factors is like, how strong is your resume? Right. First of all, have you applied yet? Have you submitted applications to these places yet? A lot of these places, if you haven't submitted applications, like it's probably too late for you to even be considered. But if you submitted the applications and you're just waiting to see if you get an interview, for some of these places, as long as they haven't finished filling up their classes, like yeah, it's still possible to get an interview. But then the next question would be like, have you been networking with these places and have you gotten the referrals that you needed? Because even if you've already applied, you can still network. And even if you didn't get selected for the initial batches of interviews, a lot of these firms, especially the ones that are really, really big, they'll have multiple batches of interviews. So you could still get put into one of the later batches if someone's willing to refer you, right? So how long, whether you submit applications and whether you start networking, those are big factors. Because if you haven't started networking, better late than never, but networking is a very time-consuming process. And it's a long lead time item, right? The other issue is like, okay, let's say you haven't even applied yet, then obviously you want to apply as soon as possible. But if you want to apply as soon as possible, then the next question is like, well, how strong is your resume, right? Like sometimes people realize they want to do banking sophomore year, and that's pretty late, to be honest, for investment banking. It sounds crazy, but realizing in sophomore year is very late. And if you don't yet have any experiences on your or relevant experiences on your resume, then you're gonna have to like spend time to go out and actually get those experiences, right? And getting those experiences actually will take time, right? And then also you have to do those internships and so on and so forth. And so that's another factor, right? Typically what we do for people that have no relevant experience is the first thing we'll do is try to get them at least one relevant internship that they can add to their resume right away, right? And even when I say right away, typically, if you do everything we ask you to do, it'll probably take less than 1 to 2 weeks. Like we have people even get it in 1 week, but you can get something relevant in just 1 to 2 weeks. And then that way you can at least add it to your resume right away. Even if you haven't done anything yet, you can add it to your resume just so people at least know that you will be doing this internship when you submit your resume for these applications, right? Because no matter what, you have to submit your applications before the deadline passes. right? If the deadline passes, then there's nothing to talk about. So that's what we'll typically that's what we will typically do for people that like that. And like these internships that we get for people, you can get them very quickly, even if you've had no prior relevant experience whatsoever. Okay, and so as hard as that may be to believe, like we just figured it out, and we have a system that we use, and we tried it at this point hundreds of times, and it just works. Okay, so if you are behind and you have no relevant experience whatsoever, but you still want to give it a go, then that's something that you might want to consider. Okay, and we can talk to you about that if you want to reach out and schedule a call with our team. Aside from that, then like obviously, look, like if you get the interviews, then these interviews are happening in real time. Like I said, right? Like all these interviews are happening, super interviews are happening. If they like you, if you get referred, they'll most likely reach out to you, and you will have to schedule an interview usually like within a few days. Usually same week or within a few days. So you're not going to have a whole lot of time to get ready for the interview. Like if you're not ready right now, like if you don't know your technical answers, or you haven't learned the technical concepts, or you don't have like really good stories developed for your behavioral answers, then you need to be doing that like simultaneously while you're applying to these banks and while you're networking with them. Okay. A lot of people make the mistake of saying, well, I'm not going to start prepping for it unless I can get interviews, because so far I haven't been able to get any interviews. So there's no point. Yes and no, right? Because by the time you get the interview, it might be too late. And then like, think about it, like this interview that was super hard to come by, you finally get one. And who knows, like for some people, they don't get more than one or two interviews. So like that might be your only chance at getting an offer. And you don't want to drop the ball on that because you procrastinated on the interview prep, right? So anyway, like when people say, is it too late for me? I would say, it depends on all these factors. Like where are you, how far along are you in preparing for all of these different things, right? But even if you are behind, okay, or you are very behind in some or all of these areas, I would say it's still not, I wouldn't say it's time to give up yet, right? Especially if you're not an international student. Now for international students, it might be a different story, right? I would say it's still not time to give up, but there's a lot less time if you're an international student, because for international students, you have to apply to the firms that are actually big enough and willing to sponsor international students. And like I said earlier, elite boutiques are largely done. Bulge bracket banks will probably be done in the near future, next 30 to 60 days. And then there are some middle market banks that will sponsor, but like the pool is smaller to begin with, and then it'll continue to shrink very quickly, right? So if you're an international student, you need to have even more urgency. But if you're not an international student, then I would say like theoretically, you have until you technically have all the way until the summer of 2023, until the end of your junior year, to secure your junior summer internship. However, so that's like almost a year from now. Like you have the next 12 months to do this. However, the longer it takes you to secure this offer, typically the worse the offer is going to be, right? The smaller the bank's going to be, the less prestigious, the lower paying, the less exit opportunities, right? But that's okay, right? So the goal then at this point is you should get the best thing you can get, which typically means get something in the least amount of time possible. Like get something as quickly as possible. And from there, as long as you're doing a banking internship for the summer, you can always recruit again for a full-time offer at the end of your junior summer. So here's the last point I'll make on this, because I think it's really important for a lot of you to hear this. And I'm going to start going through some of these questions that people have been asking. Okay. So if you guys have questions, keep dropping them in the queue, and I'm about to get to them. But one thing that I think a lot of students don't realize is that success is not a straight line. Like a lot of you maybe haven't experienced that much setbacks or failures in your life so far. Like, you've always been a good student. You got into all the colleges that you wanted to get into. You're like top of your class. like a lot of people that are going for investment banking have that type of profile. And then so like you've never failed before, or it's like, the people that are growing up right now or they're in college right now, like you guys have never experienced a recession before, right? Because the stock market has been up only basically for like the last 12, 13 years. This is the same idea. So like you have no idea what it's like when the stock market crashes. You didn't live through 2008 or even before that, like the dot-com bust. Well, success is the same thing. Like every once in a while, things might not go your way. You might not get the best junior summer internship that you want, but that's not like the end all be all, right? Because if you don't get the summer internship that you want, you can recruit again for full-time. And if you don't get the full-time offer that you want, you can lateral to another bank, maybe 6 or 12 months into your job. Like, how I know this? Because that's what I had to do. I actually graduated in 2008 during the peak of the financial crisis. And I did my summer internship in the summer of 2007. That was the summer between my junior and senior year. And I happened to intern at Bear Stearns, which a lot of you probably don't even know what Bear Stearns is because they don't exist anymore. They were the first firm to go under during the 2008 financial crisis. But back then, when they did exist, I would probably categorize them as like, lower end of the bulge bracket. Like back then, elite boutiques didn't exist. So it was like lower end bulge bracket, maybe like borderline middle market bulge bracket firm, right? I would say probably more bulge bracket. But regardless, like it wasn't like my top choice, but like that was a summer internship that I got. And I was like, okay, that's fine. I'll recruit again for full time. But actually, like when I finished my summer internship, I didn't even have a return offer because that was the summer. Summer 2007 was the summer when the two Bear Stearns hedge funds collapsed, and that triggered the entire financial crisis, right? So they didn't give anyone return offers because the firm was about to go under. Like we just didn't know yet at the time. And so I had to go through full-time recruiting with no return offer in hand, which is really, really hard to do because most of the firms are going to wonder, like, what's wrong with you? Why didn't you get a return offer, right? And then I probably got rejected by like over 20 different firms for full-time. And I kept going though. Like most people would have given up if you get rejected by 20 different banks. But I finally got into Deutsche Bank, which is another bulge bracket bank. And at the time, is doing better than it is doing now. But I would say like, it probably still isn't like, it still wasn't like considered a top tier bulge bracket bank back then. So it still wasn't like, I still wasn't completely satisfied, but whatever, I got in. That's where I started full-time. And then after my first year at Deutsche Bank, I then lateraled to Morgan Stanley's technology investment banking group. And that's like one of the top groups on the street, right? Like that's like them, Goldman Sachs, and Goldman TMT, and Catalyst are probably like the three top technology investment banking groups. And technology is like a top 3 industry coverage across all of investment banking, right? So it's one of the best groups, one of the most prestigious, one of the hardest to get into, one of the groups that has the best exit opportunity. So my point is though, it took me multiple tries until I ended up there. And I would say I had like multiple setbacks along the way, but the key is to like, one, not give up, which it sounds simple, but a lot of people can't do that. They'll give up really, really easily. And then 2, not giving up alone is not enough, but it's like, are you getting the guidance that you need to actually like figure out what it is, what mistakes that you're making that's causing you to not have as much success the first time? And are you improving upon those mistakes, right? And that's kind of where we come in, right? Because we can help you fix whatever issues you're currently having. Okay, so anyway, that's my little like pep talk for you guys for summer 2023. Like if you're feeling behind right now, it's not time to give up yet. Okay, and if you feel like you're kind of spinning your wheels, not making any progress, you're trying all sorts of things, not getting results, not getting interviews, or you're getting interviews, you're not getting offers, then something's got to change. Okay, and if you don't know like what you need to change or how to change it, then it's time to reach out to people who are experts at this. Like you can reach out to our team, and we're happy to jump on a call with you, help you diagnose your problem, diagnose your issues. We'll ask you a bunch of questions to figure out like where you're at. And then we'll give you at a minimum some advice on what we think you should do to fix these things, regardless of whether you want to work with us or not. Okay. And if you want us to help you with it, then great. Happy to help you through it. It'll make your life a lot easier. If you don't want to work with us and you want to do it on your own, hey, no problem either. You can definitely try that. as well, right? So anyway, that's that. All right, I'm going to start scrolling through these questions because I see that there's a good number of questions that have built up. So I want to make sure I get through these in the next 40 minutes or so. All right. So let's see here. I'm going to start with Instagram. So on Instagram, Jason To-Do says, question, you know Stony Brook University? Yes, Jason, I have heard of Stony Brook. Not sure if you have a follow-up question to that. You said, how much for a Q&A? I'm not sure what you mean by that, Jason. I mean, this Q&A is free. I'm just doing it for you guys. I do this once a month for people that are not in our program yet, just as like something that's pro bono to help everyone out, because we have a limited bandwidth and we can't work with everybody. Like, it's by application only. But this Q&A is completely free. Okay. I'm trying to get some context, like where you came from, education, all that, start from the jump. Yeah, I mean, if you want to know my background, you can go to my couple places. You can go to my LinkedIn profile. You can look me up. You see all my background there where I've worked. But I graduated Berkeley, UC Berkeley in 2008. Like I said earlier, I interned at Bear Stearns for my summer, then Deutsche Bank for my first year. Then I worked at Morgan Stanley Tech for 2 years. Then I did private equity for 2 years after that. Then I worked for a couple of different, like really hot VC-backed tech startups. I worked for Square back when they were a $3 billion company, pre-IPO. I worked for GitHub, and they were only worth $750 million before they got acquired by Microsoft for $7.5 billion. Ran the strategic finance team there. Also worked for their company that's called Enjoy Technologies, and they recently went public a few months ago as well. Okay, and then I started Wall Street Mastermind. So that's kind of my background, since you're curious. Let me come back over to some of these other channels. So on LinkedIn, Zachary Woods asks, when do 2023 apps close? Yeah, I guess I kind of already answered this earlier in kind of the intro to this Q&A. So I'm not going to rehash that again. But Zach, like, I would say elite boutiques are done. Bulge bracket banks are ongoing as we speak, and will probably be done in the next month or two. And then middle market banks will probably recruit through the end of your sophomore summer and maybe a little bit into your junior year. And then after that, like, you're probably looking at regional boutique banks. Okay. Let me go to the next question on LinkedIn. Rucha Deshpande asks, can you suggest firms for winter internships? Rucha, there's so many. Like, I mean, again, and also it depends on like what your background is. So I don't know enough about you. But like, you have to kind of like build your way up, right? Like if you, because you like ideally you work at like something that's highly relevant, like a small investment bank or a small investment bank or a small private equity firm or even a search fund or something like that. But also like what you're eligible for kind of depends on what else you already have on your resume. So like this has to be kind of custom tailored for each person, right? And also like even just amongst this category of like small investment banks and small private equity firms, like there are thousands of these out there. Okay, so like for example, in our program, like we have we call it like an investment banking database where we track like over 1,000 plus boutique investment banks that you can reach out to and network with and try to get an internship from, right? Including the name of the firm, the website, their locations, like where they have offices, and you know, their contact information, right? So it's there's a lot of options. Bottom line. Also, you're saying winter internship. So I'm not sure what you mean by that, but like I assume it's like something you want to do over the winter break. If so, like usually I think winter break for most schools is only about like one month or so, or a few weeks. So it might be a bit too short for like an actual internship, unless you're willing to continue to intern into the following semester. Okay, because I think like most firms, they usually aren't going to be interested in hiring an intern unless it's like at least 2 to 3 months, you know, probably like 3 months. Right. Because it's going to take them time just to like even like train you and onboard you. And by the time they do all that work, like if you're like winter's over and you're just going to go back to school, like there's no point for the firm. Does that make sense? So that's something to keep in mind. Let me come over to YouTube real quick. Rebecca Fuchs asks, good evening, Sam. My name is Rebecca. I'm currently a freshman, not in the recruiting process yet, but trying to learn as soon as possible so that when I do go through the process, I'll be ready. That's awesome, Rebecca. You're doing the right thing. getting a head start. What do you consider to be a relevant internship slash job? Does any position in finance slash banking count as relevant experience, or does it need to be an IB position at another smaller firm? Yeah, that's a great question, Rebecca. So no, it doesn't have to be at an investment bank. Like I said earlier, like it could also be at a private equity firm, could also be at a search fund. I would say equity research is also pretty relevant. Valuation is also like valuation firms. I will also consider that to be relevant. I would say, what else? Corporate development can also be relevant. That's like doing M&A, but in-house at a company. And so there's a lot of different options, right? Some people do like private wealth management internships. I'm not as big of a fan, on private wealth, because I think those, in my experience, tend to be a lot more hit or miss. And a lot of private wealth internships are kind of more of a sales and marketing internship, like you helping them source relationships with high net worth individuals. So like you're not really doing a whole lot of finance, right? But basically, like the bottom line is, I mean, even like FP&A, like financial planning and analysis, like that's a finance internship. I would say it's not as relevant, but like you can probably spin that to be somewhat relevant, depending on how you kind of craft your stories. But the ideal and optimal internships are internships where you're like doing some type of M&A work. It's like transactional work, which is why I said things like, investment banking, private equity, corporate development, like these are all internships where you're doing M&A work, right? You can also work for like hedge funds, family offices, like any of these firms where you're like investing and actually like analyzing companies, analyzing their stock, looking at like trying to value the firm. That can be very relevant too. That's why I said like equity research and even valuation jobs can be relevant as well, right? So there's a lot of different options out there. So hopefully that helps. All right. One more thing I will say, Rebecca, is that since you are female, you would also qualify for a lot of the diversity programs that are out there. So a lot of these bigger firms like the bulge bracket, elite boutique, and middle market firms, they have these diversity programs because they want to hire more females, they want to hire more Latinos, more African Americans, more Native Americans, people with disabilities, LGBTQ students, people with veteran experience, like you served in the military. So like if you qualify for any of these categories, like you will want to look into either the freshman or sophomore summer internship programs that are offered by these bigger firms. Like if you can get into one of those, that's like the best thing you could possibly do. Okay. Of course, they're like very, very competitive as well. We also have an entire list of all of these diversity programs inside of our program. A lot of our students are currently, the underclassmen students that we're currently working with are already starting to apply to those as well, right? Like Morgan Stanley, for example, their sophomore summer internship application is already open. Okay. And they're doing high reviews and stuff as we speak. All right. Hope that helps. Let me go to the next YouTube question from Ty Kara. I got a full-time offer from a small boutique focused on restaurants and quick service retail, making 100K plus out of school. I want to get into more industries. Should I leave after 2 years? Graduating in a few days here. Is it possible to lateral to a larger IB firm that covers more industries? Yeah, Ty, I mean, it's definitely possible to lateral. But when you say a larger IB firm that covers more industries, I mean, like, depends on like what kind of firm you're talking about. If you end up at like a bulge bracket or elite boutique or even a middle market firm, like kind of like the top 50 that we're talking about, like those are the largest firms, right? And those are typically like what everyone's aiming for. At those firms, you're typically going to end up like getting placed into a specific group. And if it's an industry coverage group, then you're going to end up only focusing on a specific industry anyway. Like I was in technology investment banking, so I only covered technology companies, right? So that's not unusual. If you want to like work across a variety of industries, then there are some like regional boutique firms that do, and even like lower middle market firms that like cover multiple verticals. Like they'll cover like 3 or 4 different industries, and then you might go in as a generalist and work on all those industries. That is possible. But those are like much smaller firms than some of these bigger ones, right? Or if you go to these big firms and you want to like be industry agnostic and cover a lot of different, like if it's important to you to get exposure to a lot of different industries, then you might have to target some of the product groups, like if you go in an M&A group, you'll only work on M&A deals, but across all the different industries, right? So you're focusing on the product as opposed to industry. You can also go to like leverage finance, same thing, equity capital markets, debt capital markets. Those are like some examples of product groups. Okay. But like when you're lateral into a bigger firm though, just keep in mind that lateral opportunities only open up if there's a need. And so not every group will have lateral openings. Typically they hire laterals if like somebody quits early, which does happen a lot, right? Because people churn in banking quite often. Or if they just underhired and there's too much deal activity and they don't have enough people and need more help, which is like for the last 1 to 2 years, that has been the case. So it's been a really good market to lateral. And that's why like also a lot of the banks have been raising their pay across the board because they're trying to like get more people and they're trying to like retain the people and keep people from leaving, right? So like it's been a really favorable market for people that want to lateral. But if you just graduate in a few days here, you're not going to lateral right away. You're probably going to stay at your firm for at least like 6 to 12 months before you start thinking about something like that. Like I was at DB for a year before I lateraled to MS. And so you'll have to see like what the market condition is like 6 to 12 months from now. Nobody knows right now, like depending on what the Fed does and how the market reacts and do we fall into a recession, and there's a lot of different factors here. There may or may not be a lot of lateral opportunities by the time you're ready to lateral. Okay. So yeah, I mean, I think what I would do if I were you is just like put your head down, work hard at your first job and try to do a good job, try to learn as much as possible, try to get on as many light deals as you can. The more deals you're on, the easier it'll be for you to have a good resume to lateral off of. And then like when it comes time, like a few months from now, let's say like, 4 to 6 months from now, if you are ready to start get serious about lateraling and you want help with that, then, reach out to me. You can, hit me up on LinkedIn or whatever. And like I said, I myself went through a lateral process, and we've helped a lot of other students go through a lateral process as well. And, we can chat and see if we could potentially help you out. All right. Let me go to the next question. I'm going to circle back to Instagram real quick here. So E3 asks, range of the prices to work with you. Yeah. Everything we do is like, it's like a lot of one-on-one with the individuals, right? Like we don't take a one-size-fits-all approach. That's like the most unique thing about us. Versus like, you just reading like the same guy that everybody else is reading. That's one size fits all, right? That doesn't really work very well. And so it's all customized based on the individual's needs. Like what do you need help with and how much help do you need, right? But like we have offerings from as low as, several $100s all the way up to like the low 5 figures, including like, we have an offer that comes with like a money back guarantee, meaning like if you do all the work that we ask you to do, and you don't get into investment banking, like we'll refund you every single last cent that you paid us, right? And so like it just depends. Like I saw like it's also by application only because like one, we don't work with everybody. It's a lot of work for us to take on, an additional client, and we usually end up working with that client for like months to like sometimes years, depending on how early you're starting, right? And then like two, like because we offer something like the money back guarantee, which like nobody else in our industry offers, like none of our competitors offer this. They just don't have a high enough success rate to be able to offer something like that. But like for us to do that, we also like vet the people that are trying to come into our program. Like we don't just let anyone join. Like we will only invite you into our program if we're very, very confident, like to the point where we're confident enough offering you a money back guarantee. Okay. And part of the reason for that too is also like what Wall Street Mastermind is quickly becoming is like this huge network. Like we've had 500 plus students that have gone through this already, and eventually it'll be in the thousands, right, in a few years. And like this is going to be a huge network of just really high caliber individuals that are all going to be starting their careers on Wall Street, okay, in like all the top banks, right, all the bulge bracket elite boutique banks, even middle market banks, going to like the top buy side firms, right, or going on and start their own companies, or going to work at like the hottest tech stars, like whatever it is that people go and do. Like the exit opportunities are tremendous, right? But like that is a network that you will always be able to tap into, because once you join Wall Street Mastermind, like you have lifetime membership, right? It's almost like people pay like $200,000+ to go to business school. Why do they do that? Like, why do you want to go to Harvard Business School? It's not so they can like take the classes and learn. Like if we're being completely honest, like most people go to business school, like the biggest thing they're going for is the connections, is because they want to meet all the other HBS grads that are going to all be very successful in the future. Because as the saying goes, your network is your net worth, right? The more successful people you know, the more successful you yourself are going to be. And so anyway, like, I kind of went on a tangent there. I digress, but like, the networking component of our community, and just like even having like all of our alumni that are working at these banks that you can tap into, that's a huge value add as well for those of you that are still trying to break in. Okay. But anyway, to answer your question, it's a wide range, obviously. And so if you want to know like what it would be for you specifically, you can book a call with our team. We can talk to you a little more about your situation, and we can give you a more precise quote for you that you can then go and decide on if that makes sense for you or not. Okay. And so for those of you that like want to do that, the call is completely free, right? There's no obligation. Like the call is just for you to like talk to us, and then also like give us more information and then apply if you want to. You can do that by going to www.wallstreetmastermind.com/apply. Okay. The streets abbreviated, so it's wallstmastermind.com/apply. Okay. And then, we'll look forward to talking to you. And even if you don't end up working with us, like I said, we'll at least give you some advice on what we think you should do, just if you want to recruit on your own, right? All right, next question. Jason asks, what does it take to be an investment banker? Like, what do you need to be good at? This is a super broad question, but like at a high level, like, I mean, you need to have a really, really good work ethic, because obviously banking hours are very long. You need to obviously be good with numbers. You need to like have a good understanding of corporate finance topics like, accounting, the 3 financial statements, valuation methodologies, mergers and acquisitions, accretion, dilution, leverage, buyout. Like there's a lot of different things that you have to kind of know how to do. And that's a lot of what they're testing you on in these interviews, right? But, aside from that, like just from a more practical standpoint, like what they're looking for, at least when you're applying, is like they want to see a resume that has a ton of relevant experience, both from like your internship standpoint as well as your extracurricular standpoint. Like, are you in the right student organizations at school? Do you have leadership positions in those organizations? Obviously, also they consider like what school do you go to? It's a lot easier breaking from a target school than a non-target school. Although for us, I would say 55% of our students don't actually go to target schools. And despite that, we still have an over 90% success rate. So even if you go to a non-target school, you can still absolutely break in as long as you know what you're doing, right? We know that from firsthand experience. Okay. Obviously, they're also looking at your GPA. Typically, what I tell people is like, if you have a 3.7 or above, it's like no questions asked, right? However, again, over 40% of our students have a GPA lower than 3.7. And despite that, we're still getting people in, right? At an over 90% success rate. Like the lowest GPA we've gotten someone into banking with is probably a 2.86, right? But like that's a really crazy exception. Like I do not recommend having a GPA that low. Typically, if you have anything below 3.0, like we won't work with you, okay? Because it's just too hard in most instances. So hopefully that answers your question. Another question on Instagram, Casing asks, what type of internships would you advise freshmen to get? Yeah, Casing, I kind of already addressed this earlier. I'm not sure when you joined, but like if you missed it, I would go back just in the interest of time, because there's a lot of other questions in the queue. I want to make sure I get through all of them. Just go back to maybe like 10, 20 minutes earlier. Like there will be a recording of this later, both on my YouTube channel and on my LinkedIn profile and on Instagram and our Instagram account and in a Facebook group. So like you'll be able to watch them, go back and watch the parts that you missed if you want. But I talked about like all the relevant internships that you should try to get, okay, or that you could try to get. Let me see if there's anything else. Alice Lee is here. Hey, Alice. Alice is my friend. That's hilarious. She's not trying to recruit for investment banking. But thanks for being here just to support. Let me come back over to LinkedIn here. All right. Aryaman Biani. Sorry, I'm probably butchering your name. But Aryaman asks, when will I hear back after my hire review for Goldman Sachs? Aryaman, like it depends. Like I said, like some of my clients have already gotten not even just for sorry, well, their hire review is the first round. So never mind. But some of my clients have already had super days with them. So some people have already heard back. But so like if you haven't heard back from them at this point, like I wouldn't say like it's game over, because like there's, they might have more super days. But like obviously the longer it's been, the less likely it is that you will get one. Okay. So, but I don't have like a definitive cutoff date for you. Like, I don't think anyone know that unless they like work for HR at Goldman. So, but all I can tell you is that I do have clients that have already interviewed with Goldman for their super days. And their San Francisco TMT group specifically, I think, has done not only one super day, but they just had their second super day last Friday. And so yeah, that's kind of the situation there. All right. But I think Goldman, like also at least a year or two ago, I don't know if they're still doing it this year, but like a year or two ago, they started doing like recruiting on like a group specific. They started doing like group specific super days basically. And so there might be other groups outside of TMT that are still recruiting. All right. So anyway, that's my answer for that. Raj says it's never too late, but it does get harder the longer it takes to get in. Sam definitely helps. Yeah, thanks, Raj. Raj is I mean, just so you guys know, Raj worked with us, but he came to us after he graduated and was already working, and then he wasn't in banking, and then we helped him lateral into banking. And we first helped him lateral into like a smaller regional boutique bank called Focal Point, and then he lateraled from there to where now he's at Guggenheim. So that's like an elite boutique bank, right? So this goes back to what I said earlier, which is like success is not a straight line. Okay, he couldn't get in straight out of college, and he didn't give up, and he got the help that he needed, and now he's working at an elite boutique, right? And so like there are a lot of different ways to get in, right? But the importance is the most important thing is that you got to get the help that you need to figure out what you need to work on, okay, or figure out what you could be doing better. The next question comes from YouTube. Stephen Yu asks, I'm a freshman and I really want to start the recruiting process earlier. So at this point, should I network first and apply for summer 2020 for 2023 analysts later this summer? So Stephen, if you're a freshman, like your freshman year is about to be over, then summer 2023 for you is actually your sophomore summer internship, right? So you would only apply for summer 2023 internships right now if it's like a diversity program that you qualify for. And their applications have to be already open. Like for example, the Morgan Stanley one, like I said earlier, is already open, right? But from your name, it sounds like you're an Asian male. So you might not qualify for a lot of these diversity programs unless, again, you're like LGBTQ or you have a disability or something like that, which obviously I don't know if you do, right? So for you, I would say like summer 2023 is a bit, it's further out for you. As a freshman right now, I would be more focused on first things first, like what are you doing this immediate summer, right? It was like summer 2022. Hopefully you have something lined up for that already. If you don't, you definitely want to have something for your freshman summer because that's going to be the last summer available before junior summer internship recruiting starts halfway through your sophomore year, right? So if you don't have anything lined up yet, you have a lot of time. Semester's almost over. We can help you with that if you want. Like I said, we can get you something probably in just 1 to 2 weeks from the time you start working with us, okay? So if you want to do that, reach out to us. Happy to help you. You can message me on LinkedIn or just send me an email, sam@wallstreetmastermind.com. Okay, Street's abbreviated to ST. So sam@wallstmastermind.com. But if you, as far as for like summer 2023 goes, for the sophomore summer internships, I wouldn't necessarily start networking for that unless, again, their applications are already open, right? And so, because otherwise, like for the bigger banks, a lot of them are still recruiting the class above you right now. So like if a freshman reaches out, they're like, dude, like you're way too early and they don't really want to talk to you, right? You can try to recruit for like some of the smaller firms for summer 2023, but typically in my experience, like the smaller firms, like the regional boutique banks, like especially if you're not a diversity candidate, that might be your only option. Those smaller firms might not recruit this early. Like they might not recruit like an entire year in advance of when they need you, right? So anyway, like not sure if that's like the answer that you're looking for, but that's kind of how I would think about the timeline. Okay, if you have more follow-up questions, you can feel free to ask. All right. Tim Zhang asks, hey Sam, I'm wondering if you need a network for diversity programs. Yeah, I mean, you should always network no matter what. Like no matter what you're applying to, like networking will help. If you don't network, like even the diversity programs are easier to get into, but they're still very competitive. And so there's no downside to networking. It can only help, it won't hurt, right? I mean, unless like, you're horrible at networking and you're very socially awkward, then like I guess it could hurt, but hopefully that's not you, right? Next question on YouTube says, Rebecca Fuchs says, I'm very interested in working with Wall Street Mastermind. What is the application process like and how selective is it? I already did the free coffee chat, but could you explain more about who you work with? Yeah, Rebecca. So if you did the free coffee chat, that's the first step, right? I'm not sure who you spoke to. If you spoke to like one of our alums, which is basically just like an upperclassman that has already successfully gone through the program and successfully landed an offer, then the next step would be for you to speak to our enrollment director, whose name is Joseph. And the alumni you spoke to can set you up for that follow-up call with Joseph. Okay. If you spoke to Joseph already, then that's fine. Then you can just continue your conversation with Joseph, and he's the one that can basically decide if you're a good fit for our program or not, and decide whether we will want to enroll you. So he's kind of like my right-hand man, because I don't have time to take all these calls myself. I'm really busy coaching my clients and helping them get in to these jobs, right? And so, but he knows the program inside out, and he understands the process very well. So he can talk to you about that. So yeah, like just reach out to whoever you've already spoken to so far and ask them to set you up for a call with Joseph. And then like on that call with Joseph, like, I would also encourage you to have your parents on the call so that they can talk to Joseph and they can learn more about this program and understand what it is. Because, from what we've seen, usually like if you can also get your parents on board and you have the support coming into this program, it's just going to set you up for success a lot more than like if they have no idea what you're going through, because like recruiting is really, really hard, right? So anyway, that's the process. So hopefully that makes sense. Armin Biani says, I gave mine yesterday. What are you referring to again? I forgot what I was talking about. I know you asked a question about the hire view, but can you say I gave mine yesterday? What are you talking about specifically? You gave your what? Let me skip you and come back. You can ask a follow-up if you want, but another LinkedIn user asks, what should people do before the start of a bulge bracket internship? If you have a bulge bracket internship already and you want to make sure that you're prepared for it, then the two things that I would practice the most are your PowerPoint skills and then your financial modeling skills. So like if you want to practice your PowerPoint skills, I would say like PowerPoint skills, ironically, are probably even more important than your financial modeling skills, because as an intern, like it's not super often that they're going to like make you responsible for the financial modeling portion of the deal that you're working on. Usually like the analyst that you're working under will be responsible for the model, and then you're helping them out with a lot of like PowerPoint slides and stuff. So like, if anything, I would say like that's probably going to be a bigger portion of your job. So making sure you're really proficient at navigating through like PowerPoint and being able to build stuff quickly and knowing all the shortcuts and getting really good at formatting stuff, like that's going to go a long ways. Okay. But like, if you're already comfortable with that, then I would practice like the financial modeling and Excel stuff. Right. But to be completely clear, this financial modeling stuff, like a lot of people get this mixed up. Like for most of you who don't have the offer yet, I do not recommend you spending time on financial modeling courses. Like a lot of people make that mistake. Learning how to do the job and learning how to get the job, those are actually like two completely different skill sets. Why do I say that? Because in your interview process, like even when they interview you and ask you technical questions, the technical interview does not include a financial modeling portion. Like it's at least at like the big banks, like the bulge bracket, elite boutique and middle market banks, like they do not like give you a laptop and ask you to like build a financial model on the spot. So like spending time on learning how to build financial models for the interviews is total overkill. Like it's actually like not the most efficient way to learn the technical concepts, because what you need to learn is how to verbalize these concepts in an interview setting, like how to explain it verbally. It's almost like, are you able to explain a discounted cash flow to a 5-year-old, well, not a 5-year-old, to like a 12-year-old who has no finance experience whatsoever? Like that's the level you need to get to, right? Because if you can, then you're going to do very well in these interviews. Knowing all the shortcuts and knowing how to link up like different cells in the model and knowing like, how to do a V lookup and this and that, like that stuff will not come up in the interview. So it's just like a total waste of time. Okay. But For this person that's asking this question, like because they've already gotten an offer, then it makes sense to learn the stuff that actually is going to help you on the job. Okay. But like, don't put the cart before the horse. All right. All right. Let me come back to Instagram. Jason to do asks, what did you ask? How much you make a year if you're willing to disclose? How much do I personally make, or how much do investment bankers make? How much I personally make is probably not relevant, but I will say that it's multiple six figures. Like I would say, high six figures a year, and my net worth is multiple seven figures, right? But more relevant to what you probably want to know is like, what do you make as an investment banking analyst, right? So I would say like, as a summer intern, if you're at a reputable bank, you can make upwards of like $30,000 to $40,000 over a 10-week summer internship, right? As a junior summer intern. So that's like an amazing amount of money, honestly, as a college student, right? And then like, if you start full-time, again, depending on the bank, but like if you're at a reputable bank, you should be able to make anywhere from like, honestly, like 150, probably closer to $200,000 to upwards of as high as like, I mean, the highest that I've heard, I have a client that's going to Centerview, which is one of the top elite boutiques and one of the highest paying on the street. And they're making $330,000 their first year. The base salary is $130,000. The bonus is $150,000 at the end of the year. And then they also get a sign-on bonus for $50,000. So like, imagine making $330,000 right out of college. Just to put that into context, the average college grad in the United States today makes $50,000. Okay. So you could make 6 to 7 times what the average college grad is making, right? Like your classmate sitting next to you, you could be making 6 to 7 times more than them right out of college. And that's just the first year out of college. Like the gap only widens from there over time. Like you're going to have a very long career. You're probably going to end up working for 10, 20, 30, 40 years, depending on like, how much money you make and how early you're able to retire. But like over time, like the slope of the trajectory of your career is completely different, right? For someone who's graduating with a $50,000 a year job, your trajectory might be like pretty flat. Like it doesn't go up that quickly. For someone who's graduating with like a $200,000 to $300,000 salary right off the bat, like the slope is a lot steeper, right? And so like that gap only widens over time. And I'm like 36, about to turn 37. So I've been working for a long time, right? And I've witnessed this firsthand, which is like a lot of my peers, like the older we get, the more we start to like separate ourselves from each other in terms of like our level of success or how much money we make or what our net worth is. And like, I've done pretty well, but like, I also know other people that have done even better. And I know like a lot of people that have done a lot worse, right? Like, so it's just like, but that gap only continues to widen over time because the more money you make, the more resources you have at your disposal, the more you're able to invest. Like, meanwhile, like, your classmate that's making $50,000 a year and living paycheck to paycheck, they're just making money with their time. You have all this excess income. You're making money with your time, yes, but you're also making money with your money by investing, right? And like, I don't know a single wealthy person that became wealthy from just like working a 9-to-5 job. Every single wealthy person I know became wealthy by either like starting a company that did really, really well, or by investing, or both, right? But you have to like have the income and the net worth to be able to do that, right? That's why like starting your career in something like investment banking, like people kind of like, I think people underrate how important it is, right? To start your career right off on the right foot. Like me getting to like a 7-figure net worth by before I turned 30 is like, that is not what most people do, right? And I'm not saying like I'm some special unicorn or something. Like I honestly think that if I didn't start my career in banking, I wouldn't have been able to do that. But I also know a ton of people that did start their career in banking who were able to do that, right? And so like really that's the main thing, right? It's not because I'm special. It's just like, hey, I did the work up front and I was resilient enough. I took all the rejections along the way. I never gave up and I fought my way into banking. And that allowed me to basically like be set up for like the rest of my career, right? So that's why I do what I do now, is like I want to help more students kind of like get into that type of career trajectory, and like it can be life-changing, right? We even have some students that are like low income come into our program, and then they get into banking and they're making like $200,000-$300,000 a year, and they're like, dude, like, I make 4 times more than my dad, and my dad like has been working for 20-30 years. Like, this is crazy. This is like, no one in my family has ever seen this amount of money. And like, you changed my life, you changed my family's life, like for my entire like family tree, basically. Like that is like verbatim what someone told me. Like, that's how big of a deal this is. And that's why like I find what I do to be extremely fulfilling. Right. All right, let me keep going. So Eileen says, hi peeps, go team. Awesome. Caesar says, hello, I just finished freshman year of college. When should I begin applying to internships? Caesar, if you don't have a freshman summer internship, you need to start applying ASAP. Ideally, you don't let your freshman summer go by without having anything, okay? Because again, this is the only summer you're gonna have before these firms start their junior summer internship recruiting process, which happens about halfway through your sophomore year. So like your sophomore summer, by the time you do that, recruiting is already like largely over for a lot of the top banks. So your freshman summer is like one of the most important summers you can have to build up your resume. Okay, so the answer is like start ASAP. If you don't know how to do that, or you've been trying, you don't know how to get the internship. Again, like I said earlier, I don't know when you join. We can probably find you a relevant internship. Even if you have 0 prior finance experience, we can get you something probably in just 1 to 2 weeks if you follow our system. So if you're interested in that, reach out to our team, and you have to apply to see if like we can work with you. Again, it's by application only. So www.wallstreetmastermind.com/apply. Okay, wallstmastermind.com/apply. Jason asks, do banks look at your transcripts or just GPA? I mean, it's the same thing. Yeah, they're going to look at your transcript before they hire you. So like, I would not lie about your GPA on your resume. I don't think that's what you're asking, but it's just like whatever GPA you put, it should be the same as what's on your transcript. So it's the same thing. Mohammed asks, could you please record this for people who are in the program? Yeah, man. This is going to be up on my YouTube channel afterwards. So you can always just go there and watch this, Mohammed. All right. But also, if you're in the program, dude, like you have like way more info than what I'm giving here already. So yeah, I don't know like how helpful this will be for you if you're already in the program. So all right, coming back to YouTube, Leah Block. I got a couple more minutes here, and I gotta go catch the Warriors game, which starts at 9:30 Eastern. So Leah Block asks, hi, I graduated with a US university last year, and unfortunately did not know about IB until my senior year. I've heard that one of the options is to go and get an MBA. Would you recommend this? Does the MBA help with recruiting at all? Yeah, that's a good question, Leah. So an MBA can definitely help. But here's what I would say about the MBA. I don't know what you're doing right now for your job, since it sounds like you've been out of school for about a year. If you like, the MBA is not the only way, right? Like if you're currently already working within the finance realm, maybe like not in investment banking, but it's like, I don't know, you could be working valuation, FP&A, corporate development, like a lot of those jobs that I talked about earlier, right? Or anything that's like even remotely tangential to banking, then there is a chance that you could potentially lateral directly into banking. Like we've done that with a lot of students that come to us after they've already graduated. They're like 1 to 2 years into their current jobs, and they found out about banking too late and they want to lateral in. So if you fit that criteria, you might want to consider that option. And the reason why I say that is an MBA can be like really, really expensive, or not can be, it is really, really expensive. So, like if you want to get into banking from an MBA, you have to go to like probably a top 20 program. If you're not going to the top 20 program, it's not really going to help you, like, because the banks don't really recruit from there. Okay. But if you get into a top 20 program, it has to be a full-time MBA. You can't do the part-time thing. Banks don't recruit from part-time programs really. So to do a full-time MBA program, it's probably going to cost you over $200K. in like 2 years of school, because like including tuition, living expenses, and let's be honest, like when people are in business school, they travel a ton. You're gonna want to go on all these trips with your classmates because again, you're there to like for the network, right? So like people usually spend like 50K just on travel. So like yeah, 200 plus $1,000 is like a very realistic estimate from all my friends that have done business school. And you're not working during those 2 years, so like there's an opportunity cost of like you not working, right? Like depending on how much money you're currently making at your job, you're foregoing your salary for those 2 years. So like by the time you're done with the MBA, when everything's said and done, like it could have cost you easily 3, 4, even $500,000, depending on like what your income is right now, right? So like $300,000-$400,000 to get this degree, and it's still not a guarantee that you get into investment banking. Like there are like your chances are pretty good at getting into investment banking if you're at an MBA, but like when I say pretty good, it's like relative to people who don't have an MBA, right? Like if you go look at like the actual employment reports for all these top business school programs, like most schools probably have anywhere from like 5 to 15% of their MBA class that graduates into investment banking. Highest school that I've seen maybe is close to like 20%. So still like not everyone at these schools are getting into investment banking, right? And so there's a chance that you spend all this money and then you still don't get into business school. Like, oh, sorry, you still don't get into investment banking. I actually know people like that. But two, like even if you do get in, it's just like, it's very expensive and it can take a long time. Because by the time you apply, like usually to get into the top business school, you have to like have at least 1 or 2 years of really, really good work experience first for them to want to consider you. Then you go to school for 2 years, and then you go into banking. So like you're going to be 4 or 5 years out of college at a minimum by the time you start banking, right? So anyway, like it certainly is viable, but like those are just some things to keep in mind. If you're currently not doing anything that's like within the finance realm, then yeah, I would say, okay, then MBA probably is your best option. Okay, because MBA is like really good for career switchers. If you don't have any finance experience, like it's gonna be really hard to lateral in. So then like at that point, like the MBA is probably the better option. And I don't want to make it sound like the MBA is like all bad and there's nothing good about it. Like there's always trade-offs and there's pros and cons with everything, right? So with the MBA, you can recruit directly for like these bigger banks, these like bulge bracket, elite boutique, and middle market banks, right? If you're lateraling in from like another finance job, then depending on what kind of finance job you're currently in, like you might be able to lateral into some of these bigger banks right off the bat, but also sometimes you might have to lateral into like a smaller bank first, like a regional boutique, just to like get your foot in the door. Just like my client Raj earlier, I don't know how early you joined this live stream, but like Raj was, I think, in like FP&A, so it wasn't like super relevant. So we helped him lateral into a regional boutique first, and then he lateral again to Guggenheim, which is an elite boutique. So it's like, sometimes it might take like one extra step if you want to get to that level in terms of like the type of firms you get into. Okay, so anyway, those are the trade-offs. Okay, I'll answer like a few more because these questions are still coming in, but then I gotta run. All right, guys, sorry. Joe on YouTube asked, I was wondering, is Princeton University a target school for Wall Street or a super target? Yeah, Princeton's definitely a super target, dude. Also, I was wondering how early one should try to get an internship in college after freshman year, sophomore year. I would say as soon as possible. If you can do freshman year, that's the best. Even by sophomore year, like it's better late than never, but like, you know, you're going to have to start applying for your junior summer internship by like, again, halfway through your sophomore year, typically like towards the end of your first semester of sophomore year. And also what we're seeing is that every single year, the recruiting timeline is getting moved up earlier. So by the time, if you're a freshman right now, by the time you have to recruit next year, it might even be earlier in sophomore year. So the point is like, by the time you have to submit these applications, you want to have already done these internships, right? That means that you want to do these internships ideally during the school year as a freshman, or like during your freshman summer, or both, right? Ideally, you do both. Like the most competitive candidates that we are seeing nowadays, by the time they're applying to these junior summer internships, they have, I would say, like probably 2 to 3 relevant internships on their resume already. 3 is better than 2, obviously, but like, you know, some have 2, some have 3, right? So think about it, like if you want 3, if you do one your second semester of freshman year, then you do one freshman summer, then you do one first semester of sophomore year, that's 3 internships right there, right? And so like that's how early you have to start if you want your resume to be that stacked, because like also these internships are each like 2 to 3 months 2 to 3 months long usually, right? So it's like there's a long lead time, right? How difficult is it to manage the internship while enrolled in classes? I mean, look, like you're certainly gonna have to like manage your time, right? And juggle multiple things, but like honestly, like if you're not good at that, then like banking is probably not gonna be the best career for you anyway, right? And so like a lot of our clients, like we'll help them find these internships that they can do in school, even as freshmen, and we'll even find them internships that are remote, so it's like a lot more manageable because you don't have to go anywhere. You just do it from campus, and like you can do anywhere from like 10 hours a week to 20 hours a week. Like if you're really busy, you can do 10 hours a week, which is like nothing, right? It's like 2 hours a day, Monday to Friday, or like maybe you do some on the weekends, and because it's remote, you can like do it anytime you want. You just like fit it into your schedule in between your classes or whatever, like during your downtime. So yeah, like there are ways to manage it. It's definitely doable. All of our clients do it. All the most qualified candidates are doing it, and that's not even the only thing that you're gonna have to do, right? You think about other things that you're gonna have to juggle if you want to like get into investment banking. It's like you gotta get good grades in school, you gotta keep your grades up, you gotta do internships, you gotta join the relevant organizations on campus, you gotta network with bankers, you gotta prep for your behaviorals, prep for your technicals. So there's like 5 or 6 things I just listed right there. You got to do all of that before the process starts halfway through your sophomore year, right? So that's also why, like, if you join something like Wall Street Mastermind, then like it can help tremendously because we help you accelerate that process, right? What we're doing is helping you through all of these like 5 or 6 things that we just talked about, doing them better and in way less time, right? And so like most of our clients, because they're not having to do any trial and error, like they have the playbook right in front of them. They just have to go out and execute and actually do the work, but they're not like experimenting. They're not trying to figure out how to do it. They're not like making mistakes and having to start over. They're not like, they have like somewhere they can go to like ask questions anytime they have questions and get a really quick response. Like, so they're able to move a lot faster. It allows them to juggle things a lot better, right? So it allows them to do more in the same 24 hours that they have in a day, just like you do, right? And so like you can honestly, like if we teach you everything you need to know, like you can probably learn everything you need to learn across like, building up your resume and networking with bankers and behavioral interview and technical interview prep, all in just 50 to 60 hours of work. So that's why I tell people is like, look, if you even dedicate like 1 hour a day, you can learn everything you need to learn in 2 months. So like, don't watch Netflix for 2 months, okay? And like, you will have everything you need to be successful in this recruiting process. Like that's not a big sacrifice to make, right? That's how easy it can be. That's not how easy it is for most people, because most people try to like make this way harder than it needs to be. And they try to like do everything on their own. And like recruiting can be a complicated process if you're going through it for the first time and you don't know what you're doing and you're under time pressure, right? So anyway, for those of you that, think what I said makes sense and you understand the value of being a lot more efficient with your time. And by the way, if you're a lot more efficient than your competition, you're going to be a lot more prepared than your competition. And your resume is going to be a lot better than your competition. You're going to network better than your competition, have more referrals than your competition, and you're going to be better at interviewing than your competition. Then like, how can you not beat your competition, right? So like, if you want that competitive edge, then reach out to us. Like I said, we're by application only. We do offer a money back guarantee. There's no other company out there that even does that, right? Because nobody dares to. We put our money where our mouth is. But it's by application only. So you can go to www.wallstreetmastermind.com/apply. It's wallstmastermind.com/apply. And then you can speak with our team. We'll learn more about your situation, see if or how we can help you. And even if we don't think we can help you, we'll give you advice on what we think you can do on your own. And you'll walk away feeling a lot better about the recruiting process either way. Okay. And at this point, we worked with over 500 students from over 100 different schools. About 45% of our students come from target schools. 55% don't go to target schools. 40% of our students have less than a 3.7 GPA. Despite all of that, we have an over 90% success rate at getting people into investment banking. And we've helped people place into every single bulge bracket and elite boutique bank at this point. Okay. And so like we have alumni at all these places. Like you're going to get access to our entire community, our entire network. This is just honestly like the best thing you could possibly do for yourself if you're serious about investment banking recruiting. There is no other resource out there that I've seen that's anywhere close to as good as ours and comes with as strong of a guarantee as ours. Okay. So if you guys want, reach out to us. We'll be happy to chat with you, regardless of what your current situation is and what you're trying to recruit for. And I look forward to talking to you guys. All right, guys. That'll be it. I'm going to wrap it up. Go watch some playoff basketball, and we'll be back and do this AMA again, same time next month. All right. Talk to you guys soon. Bye.